minutes are opening at 6:38. Tonight, we are going to review and approve the June 8 meeting minutes. We're going to go over the monthly vouchers and financial report. We'll go over Matthew's director's report and then discuss the performance review goals and contract for Matthew. And then handle anything that has come up in the last 48 hours. Does anybody have anything they want to add? Okay. Meeting minutes. Does anybody have feedback for Charlotte?
I move we accept
Okay,
the
does
minutes
someone-
as written.
Thank you. Yep,
That's Maureen.
Second, Judith.
thank you. Okay, no
Tracy's
other
trying to get-
discussion? She's trying to
Tracy's
get
trying
in?
to get on there here for a second,
No
and then
way.
she's gone again.
Okay. All right, let's vote. Charlotte?
Aye.
Charlotte? Okay. Judith?
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Maureen?
Aye.
And I'm an aye, so that's five ayes. All right, on to the vouchers. There were lots of vouchers. Does anybody have questions for Matthew? Matthew, is there anything you want to tell us about the vouchers?
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because this is the point where we're swapping from one fiscal year to another. So I just want to be sure everyone's clear on what's getting approved. So I sent one batch of vouchers. Those are the end of the fiscal 26 money. That's from previous year's budget. Then I sent a few bills that have come in for fiscal 27. Those are some things that come right on July 1st and a few things I just wanted to get paid. So that's kind of the smaller batch. And then today, I hope everyone got it. I found at the last minute a few more bills that are from fiscal year 26. So that was an extra voucher. They were all from Gale. Those are large print books. So that one needs to be approved with the fiscal 26 bunch. And I think we can do, I think you can just take one vote and approve everything I presented. I don't think you need to separate them into two different votes.
So I would think in our motion, we could say 26, the leftovers from 26 and the first ones for 27. That way it just covers both of them.
Sure. I have a few other things I want to say on the financial report part, but since we're doing the vouchers first, if there's any questions on the actual vouchers, the expenses, it's kind of a lot. So in the end of June, Leanne and Michaela and I all had to catch up on our materials budget. We were a little behind where we were for certification, but we got everything ordered. It worked out really well. We're meeting our certification requirement. We had enough money in the budget. Most of the vouchers for fiscal 26 are at this point using the state aid funds. I did pull about just under 3,000 from the revolving fund. That's all that money we've been building up with passport fees. So you'll see some account numbers that you're not always used to seeing.
So Matthew, you basically spent all the 26 money already, right?
Yeah, so what we do is I try to spend the expense account as close to zero as I can. I think I got within $100 this year. So I spend the expense account first because that goes away. As of June 30th, we cannot spend any more fiscal 26 operating funds. Then anything that's left over after the expense account is gone, I go to the revolving fund, which has to get spent, is an annual expenditure limit on that. And then the last thing I use is the state aid funds, because the state aid carries over from year to year and it's fairly unrestricted. So that's kind of like, if we can save a few thousand there, it's always best to use that last, because that'll give us some extra funds in future years.
Yeah.
Anyone else with questions? Okay, does someone want to make a motion on the remaining FY26 and the first few or batch of FY27 vouchers?
I move we accept the last batch of FY26 vouchers and all new vouchers from FY27.
Second,
Thank
Judith.
you. Okay, Judith, I got. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. Maureen,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Oh,
Judith,
aye.
Charlotte,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
and I am an aye, so we have now 6 ayes. Okay. Financial report.
Yeah, let me say a few words if I could, and then I'll be happy to take questions. So the one that's interesting, I did send a fiscal 27 financial report. I don't always do that in July. Sometimes I don't even do one until August because it doesn't show much. It just basically shows what the town appropriated. So the one you want to look at is the one that says fiscal 26 final financial report. So this is just sort of a picture. This is the end of that fiscal year. Shows where we were at the end of that budget cycle. You can see we have a little bit of wages left. That usually happens. That's because the employees that don't get benefit time, the part-timers, if they take time off and they don't work, if they take a week off to go somewhere, that's unpaid. So that just becomes a little cushion in the wages account. We're going to jump back to that. I got too many financial reports open. The next line is the expense account. So as I said, that we spend pretty much as we can. Some years I try to spend that right to zero. This year there was a little discrepancy between my spreadsheet and what the accountant had. So I left a little cushion in there because if that goes negative, then it's a huge problem. Then the revolving fund, we spent almost all of it. We saved a few hundred on there. And then the last two, the municipal equality grants, that's what we call state aid, and the Good Fortune Fund, those are the two that we can carry over from year to year. So that's why I leave some balances there. So that's the accounts that we have. Then the next section is our budget sub line items. You can see where we ended up. The library network membership, the reason we have $2,500 left there is because we get a grant from the state. It's called the small libraries and networks. It's to help pay for network membership, and we've gotten that many years. But that's nice because that gives us the fact that we get that grant gives us the cushion to make up for some of these line items that went into the negatives. Because again, this is all expense account stuff. So the sub lines, it's okay if they're negative as long as the whole account isn't. So the things we overspent on, obviously, are the materials processing, which is always an issue. I had to spend another $300 this month just to get enough supplies to make it through the next couple of months, hopefully. But that's just, prices go up. We buy more materials, and the prices on this is all plastic and laminates and labels and stickers, everything that goes up in price. And then office supplies are a little over. I classify some things as office supplies that maybe I shouldn't, like copy paper and stuff like that really kind of goes to the public. But we were a little over on that. Made up for some of that with the children's supplies. And then passport revenue ended up being $13,000 this year. So that's a nice chunk that went to the town's general fund. All right, any questions on that end of fiscal year 26 and where we stood?
Do you have any idea how much we made on the passport photos?
I I do track that, but it's not on this report. It's on my spreadsheet at the library. Um, the majority of the passport revenue came from that, so I would say we were probably in the $4,500 range for passport photo income this year.
Okay. Matthew, where does the speaker series go in terms of the budget? What line item?
We take that from our programming operating expense. So we're at 5,500 now that we pull from the operating budget. That the virtual speakers consortium comes from that. And we supplement the programming budget gets supplemented quite a bit. We use some of the revolving fund from it. Any of the grants we get, most of the summer program gets paid for by the Unibank donations. So the 5,500 is what comes from the town's appropriation, but we supplement that quite a bit.
Okay. You supplement it with the grants and the Good Fortune Fund.
Yep, grants that generally get deposited into the Good Fortune Fund. We support it with the revolving fund. We use some of the money from that. The other groups that like Beginning Bridges, Failing, whatever, Leanne knows what they're called now. They changed their name. But that group that supports early childhood literacy pays for some of our music programs. That shows up in those. Actually, you know what? The ones that they pay directly, so we don't even see those invoices.
This year, they're paying the entire Family Music and Movement Program for the entire year.
Wow.
So that would
Nice.
affect programming if we didn't have their support.
Who pays for it?
Wow.
It's the organization Beginning Bridges, CFCE.
Okay,
They're through the Early
Yeah.
Education Council. Like Matthew said, they're changing their name. They haven't announced what it is yet, but they have changed their name.
And if the friends of the library pay for something, they usually pay directly. So those invoices don't show up on our reporting at all if the friends pay directly for a presenter.
So do you know how much the library spends or invests in programming total? Like, it's obviously not 5,500. It's a lot, like you said, it's a lot more than that. Do you know, or is there a way for you to add up in the last fiscal year what we actually spent on programming?
Yes, I can't do it right now. I'd have to dig through a couple
No,
different.
that's fine.
I'd have to dig through a couple different spreadsheets and probably see if Leanne and Michaela have some information. But yeah, I can do that. And if that's helpful, I could start tracking that and maybe I can make a note for the source. Because this
I actually-
we're looking at more programming, and we keep talking about it, but the budget item is 5,500. That doesn't seem like a lot of money for programming, but we're spending more than that. We're actually investing more. It's just it's coming from different places.
Right, and that number is only what we pay an outside presenter, right? So like story time doesn't show up there at all because that's wages and
Right.
it's supplies. So it would be fairly easy for me to tell you how much do we pay professional performers. It would be much harder to put a dollar value on the entire cost of programming because then I'm guessing at hours and wages and things like that.
No, it would just be how much, literally, how many invoices. What did we actually spend on outside people doing programming?
Yeah.
Just curious, because it's more than 5,500, and could be a lot more. I'd like to see. I'm sure we'd all like to see what that real number is.
Yeah, I don't think it would be double that. I don't think even if you add in everything, I don't think we'd hit 10,000, but it's probably 8,000 for sure.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking too.
Anything else on the final 26 report? Okay. Want to move on to the first one for 27?
Yeah, so like I said, I often don't even do one in July. I got to say, this year it was really nice having the July 17th deadline for the last of the vouchers was really long. Sometimes, some years it's been like July 6th, and it's this horrible scramble to get everything done. So it was nice that the accountant basically gave us an extra week this year, which was nice. So most years I don't even do a July 1st financial report. I wait until August because there's not much going on. But I had it in front of me when I was doing those vouchers, so I just plugged the numbers in. So it's pretty basic. You can see our wages went up a bit. We got an increase in the materials expense, and I think we added a little bit to one of the line. I think it was the software line item because we knew we were adding Constant Contact. But yeah, not much to say on that. The CW Mars membership is the big bill that they always send that right on July 1st. And because the way their fiscal cycle works, the earlier that gets paid, it's much better for them. So I always make sure that gets paid right away.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I'm looking for something. Can't find it. All right. Does someone want to make a motion? If there are no more questions for Matthew, does someone want to make a motion on the 2 financial reports?
Maureen, I move we accept the financial reports as written.
Lori, I'll
Lori?
second that.
Who was that?
Lori.
Lori,
Lori. Okay. Couldn't tell. Thank you.
Lori.
Okay. Any other discussion on it? All right, let's vote. Maureen,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Judith,
Aye.
Charlotte,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Unanimous, all 6. Okay. Director's report.
All right, let me pull that up, go through stuff quick. I actually expected circulation to be a little higher. So we definitely were much higher than May, but a little bit below last June, but only a tiny bit. June and July are usually our highest 2 months for circulation. E-audio and yeah, the last 2 months, I kept saying, oh, we're setting records for e-audio, and I have no idea why. But this month they went down, so it may have just been a blip, or people are outdoors more now. I don't know. I did add a line right at the top of the second table there for tracking the Constant Contact subscribers, because I know that's interesting and we want to see that grow. So we've just started. We have 53 subscribers at this point. We are just starting our push to get people to sign up. We have the QR code on the website, or the link on the website. We have the QR code at the library desk. Amelia's doing social media. So kind of our goal is kind of to get 500 plus subscribers. That seems, we have 300 on Wowberry. We have close to, I think we have over 1,000 now on our Facebook page. So if we can get half our Facebook followers to become newsletter subscribers, that's kind of a nice target. Interestingly, we set a new record for number of items added to the collection in a month. That's because, again, as I said, we had a bunch of ordering. So Leanne and Michaela sort of had lists on order waiting for me to say pull the trigger because we have enough money. So they did that. Leanne ordered a whole set of new country books, a really nice new set. So that was probably like 80 to 100 books in that whole set. All right, I just lost my report and go back to it. Room use is down a little bit, which is interesting. Again, could just be people want the study rooms more during the winter. All right, and then program statistics. No huge changes. It's kind of the same patterns we've been seeing. Baby story time and preschool story time are getting back to their basically their capacity. Again, our capacity is 16, and we usually have some no-shows. So if you're seeing 13, 14 there, that's pretty much a full program. When we were seeing 9 or 10 for preschool story time, that was a little low. Those are back up. The make and take crafts for usually we're around 300 for a month, but it was way higher this year. This month. That number kind of popped out when I saw that in the statistics. Those are just things that Leanne and Michelle sort of photocopy and leave them in the kids area, and they actually count how many copies they put out. That's how we track. So hopefully those are all getting used for their intended purpose and not scratch paper or bookmarks or something. But yeah, we didn't do anything particularly different. Just a lot of use, a lot of foot traffic. Everything else is pretty good. Crafternoon and Storybook Art Club, those are two of Michelle's programs that some months do better than others, and this month did really well. The two programs that have zeros are the ones we're discontinuing at the end of the summer, except for Crafting Club. Some months Crafting Club has 5, 6, and some months it has none. All right, and then down at the bottom, I separated out which programs were specifically part of the summer reading program. So those are the extra things that we did in June. Those all got pretty good attendance. The babysitters course is the only one we're thinking of not doing next year. It was a little bit of a struggle to get that filled. The instructors don't want to run that program unless they have 10 signed up. And they actually, if we don't get 10 signed up, they bill us for the difference. So we struggled to get the 9. Leanne had to really kind of reach out to some people and give them extra invitations. So we might not do that next year. Of course, we always say that, and then the month after the babysitters course happens, then we get 3 or 4 families calling and saying, "Hey, are you doing a babysitters course?" Oh, yeah, we just did it last month. Right. Kickoff was fun. So pollinators and vegetable totes were the elementary school kids. They were pretty well attended. We are seeing a lot of no-shows. So we're seeing an increase in families that register and then don't come to the program. And that's hard for us because if, we cap a program at 20, we want it filled and only, 12 people show up. We try to fill in by just inviting walk-ins in, but it's a problem I think all libraries have, and it's not really solvable. Some libraries get very punitive. They actually I heard from one library that literally bans you from if you sign up and no show, they ban you for the next 2 months from signing up from programs, which seems a little extreme. We're not there yet. But it is a problem that Leanne and Michelle and I talk about. We may switch certain programs to be more of a drop-in than a register, some of the crafting kind of ones. All right, any questions on statistics stuff before I go into the text?
Yeah, Matthew, which ones are you discontinuing? Is it?
Tween Book Club
the-
and Magic
Okay.
the Gathering.
Okay. So not crafting club yet.
Not yet, because it's erratic, right? I think last month we had 9 at Crafting Club and 0 at Gaming Club. This month we had 0 at Crafting Club and a couple at Gaming Club. So we're going to stick with those. It's one of the we tend to keep canceling anything that's aimed at the teens, the young teens and the older tweens, and I don't want to give up on them entirely. And that's fairly low. I mean, there's some planning that goes into it. There's, staff time. Usually Michaela is the one who's in the classroom waiting for people to show up, but it's not a financial expense if those, we have all the equipment. We just kind of set it up with staff time.
Magic the Gathering, we are going to run a one-off event in the fall so that we can try and get some more kids to learn how to play and maybe eventually kick that off again. But maybe a one-off event will get more attendance.
What age
And
group
Matthew-
is that for?
Ages 8 to 16, and Matthew's going to run that.
I
He's been
wonder
doing
if,
that.
Rushford does a Magic the Gathering event once a month for adults that's filled. And I wonder if somebody over there has ideas about what we could do to feed into that. So,
Alcohol.
or maybe that advertise.
That's what it is. I
Beer.
think Rushford runs a lot of events that would kind of compete with what the library does, but they have more of a draw because it's more entertainment and for adults. And like Matthew
most,
said, it's a brewery.
There's
Yeah.
shops,
But-
there's commercial shops that run these events that do quite well
Yeah.
too. And I think the difference between us and them is if you already know how to play and you want to go do a tournament with 30 people in it, that's not what we're looking for. We're really trying to get kids that either don't know how to play or aren't comfortable walking into a retail establishment and playing with a bunch of strangers. The other issue with that Magic the Gathering is like, that would be a really fun program if there's 6 to 8 kids, and it's kind of miserable if there's only 2 kids, because 2 kids show up and then there's not much they can do and they're kind of sitting around hope. So it's one of those, it's sort of a critical mass program, because there were a couple families that showed up and they were the only ones there. It was the dad and his 2 kids, and I tried to kind of play a game with them, but it was a bad experience for them and they wouldn't come back.
Yeah.
So
I'm just wondering, advertise it there, because people that are playing it might have that they're looking for a library type thing for them to learn a little bit more. That's what I was thinking, more advertising it. If they-
yeah, so this is definitely, our niche is definitely going to be learn to play for beginner
Learn to play.
players, or not people that aren't confident. If you're a good player and you like this game and you do it a lot, you're going to be much happier going to a game store than a library, because
Right.
they offer prizes and stuff like that.
Right. Okay.
And we're marketing it as a learn to play program, right? So, okay. All
They're
right.
not working out so well. Yeah.
One of our really successful clubs has been Chess Club, though. That's been a lot of fun for kids, and it's different kids every time that show up. And even if they don't know how to play, we teach them and just have fun together, and it's a lot of fun.
Great.
And a big kid grown up.
Some of the grown-ups stay, some of the grown-ups stay with their kids and they play too. So it ends up being a little family event sometimes. I still haven't won a game yet, though. It's been over a year. I keep waiting for my day.
Okay. Lots coming up.
Yes, so July is the busy month. July is a month that I always tell Leanne, you're scheduling too many things. But so July is the heart of the summer program, so that's why the special events section upcoming is 3 times as long as it usually is. But hopefully we get good attendance at those. And you can see
This week especially.
you can see the age ranges that, Leanne really tries to make sure each age group is covered for a couple events each month. And those are in addition to, we still do all of our regular year-round programming. These are additional things. All right, I'm going to go ahead and skip down. Oh, I will say we don't have anyone lined up for the display case or the circulation spine in the upcoming months. So if you mention it to anyone or think of anyone, just let them know that we do have an artist display opportunity. If anyone has photos, or Lauren Scheuer comes down with her collection of like animal skulls and things. So it can be some oddball stuff. It doesn't have to be like, oh, I do an oil painting. It can be whatever, salt shakers or porcelain dolls, whatever you collect. All right, so community center update. We did have an incident where we had a ceiling leak in the community center. I just wanted to make sure all the trustees knew about it. So just in case a neighbor or a resident says something or asks something, there was a small leak. It was caused by a air conditioner. Apparently, it was a combination of a hose froze, and that caused the condensate to overflow, and the drip pan that's supposed to catch that wasn't welded at the bottom correctly, so the drip pan leaked.
Aye.
So there's a number of things that went wrong, but there was a leak. It was down near the quiet study rooms. Luckily, I think it was a Monday morning. Staff came in and noticed it in time to. It was right above one part of the large print collection got moved, so no actual library items got damaged. But there was a fair amount there's some ceiling tiles that have to be replaced. There's some carpet squares that are probably not going to smell too nice and should be replaced. So the DPW is handling all that repair work. There may be a day when they do a little bit of drywall work on the ceiling. We may have to close off some parts of the collection to let them do that work. But it could have
When did
been.
this happen?
It was was it the Monday I got back from my? It was like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
I think so.
It's air conditioner related, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like leaks are one of the things that can destroy a library collection really fast. So this could have been, it could have been a lot worse. It was in a decent spot and didn't hit the collection. But it was an interesting morning.
Yep.
Fiscal stuff we talked about. The Constant Contact newsletter is active. Amelia's doing the content for that. We're now into our get as many people to sign up as we can stage.
Matthew, I just want to say that it was wonderful.
Oh, you signed it. You got it in addition.
I
Good.
did, yeah, a few days ago. It was fabulous. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Amelia's we're gonna try to keep that format. It should look fairly similar. We're gonna keep the same kind of background image and layout and the events at the bottom. And then Amelia's gonna try to come up with just an interesting thing for the first paragraph. And then we can start dropping in if there's something anybody on staff wants to boost a particular program, or if the Friends of the Library want to throw something in there, or if I have a service I think people might not know about. So that's kind of the template that's going to go out weekly, and then we can drop in our content. And then we've talked about, in addition to a regular weekly one, do we want to do a few, like we could do little special, if there's something important going on or something people want to know about, we can do like a special email in addition to the regular weekly one.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
All right, strategic plan. Nothing's really happened. I switched my focus to the policy manual because I was on a roll with that. But we do need to get back to the strategic plan. I just wanted to make sure it was on our radar, and at some point the trustees are going to have to sort of select what their priorities are going to be, and then I can work those into. I got to do it like an introduction and a narrative and some of the demographic information, but at some point we're going to have to pick the actual priorities to develop. The policy manual. So I've been making good progress on this. So I have a whole first draft of an updated policy manual that's available for review. At this now, I'm gathering some feedback. I'm going to start asking some staff to review sections of it. I have a few sections I think I want town council to put some eyes on, and the trustees should decide what you want to do in terms of reviewing it. So once I say I'm happy with it, then you guys have to have some process for looking at it, reviewing at it, and then either approving it or making suggestions. So I know in the past we've talked about, is there a subgroup that's particularly interested in that? Or there certain policies that are important enough the whole group wants to look at them? do you want to just review it individually and flag areas you have questions about? Because that process can take up lots and lots of meeting time if we try to do it all at a full meeting of the board. Can get very unwieldy.
Or take forever. So, would we be the last to review it even after the town council has approved everything? So we would look at the final draft?
Well, it depends. So it you kind of sometimes have to go back and forth, because if you guys make significant changes, if I have town council look at a draft and they say, okay, this is fine, and then the trustees come along and change some things, I mean, I have at least enough knowledge of the legalities to be like, okay, that change is fine, or that change needs to go back to town council. So I kind of think maybe town council should be last, because they're expensive. So we want to use as little town council. We don't pay for it, but the town manager does. And I certainly don't need them to look at the entire thing. It's the one I'm most concerned about is the bulletin board policy, because that's a new one, and it does hit on some First Amendment issues. We're trying to. I'd like to put some restrictions on what can go up there, and I want to make sure that that's not blatantly unconstitutional. I mean, other libraries certainly have much stricter restrictions on that than we do, but other libraries often adopt things that we might not necessarily be able to defend in court. So I'm certainly not going to have town council look at the whole thing, but I may get the town manager to help decide which ones she wants town council to look at and which ones she doesn't.
Okay.
Some of the ones about
Okay.
children we might want to have them look at.
So do you want us to wait until you've drafted all of it for us to review it? Or do you want to do it?
The link that I sent out, the second link, so I have two versions. One was my working document that I took the old content and did all the editing, and I liked being able to track the changes, but it got so messy that I had to. So the second link I sent out is all of the edits I made, basically the new version. I went through it this afternoon, just doing formatting, kind of page breaks, and make sure the paragraphs look good. I'm pretty happy with the content on that. I do want to get some feedback from other staff, but I feel like that one is pretty much that's a version I'd be happy taking a vote on, unless there's things there that the trustees have questions about.
Okay. So does anybody have an interest in creating a subcommittee? Don't all shout at once. Yeah, not unexpected. So I guess if you've given us the link, that second link, then we can review it on our own time.
Yeah.
And get feedback to you before the next meeting or at the next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real deadline on this. It's a purely internal document. I probably should have done the strategic plan first, because that one does have more of a deadline. Yeah, next meeting, or we could see how busy the agenda is.
September?
I did in the table of contents, I did kind of flag anything I highlighted in red the policies that are completely new that we didn't have before. So if you're only going to look at a couple of them, definitely look at those. And then the ones that I made sort of major substantive changes to, I highlighted in yellow. They say revised. And then the ones I didn't do much to, just say either minor revisions, or if it has a date. Some of the really recent ones that we approved 2 years ago, I just basically pasted into this document. So if you don't want to skim the whole thing, you could sort of prioritize which sections you look at based on how much I changed them.
Right.
You also could
Okay.
kind of just look for things that seem interesting to you, like the overdue practices and, interlibrary loan procedures, probably not the most exciting, but, some of the stuff like how we use volunteers, or, what we do with gifts and donations, those might be a little more interesting.
Okay. Well, I don't want to drag it out too far because we'll tend to drag it out as long as possible and then it won't get done. So I think we can put it on the August agenda, assuming it's not, a packed agenda, just as a discussion, and see if anybody has any questions for you or policies they want to discuss, and kind of have a discussion in August and maybe September or October. I guess approve it to go to the town council. Thoughts?
I think that's a
Well,
great
I'm
idea.
It's supposed to be presented to us by the 15th of August, so that would give a time at our meeting next time. But I also remember that sometimes we've had a separate meeting around this. Maybe we don't need to, but if the goals would be like we have it on this document that you sent us, this is keeping with the timeline. And then the
Well, those
strategic
dates,
plan.
I mean, that's a draft, so we could push out the final approval to September. Discussion in August and
Mhm.
September finalized, unless there's some major problem that erupts. So we can change those dates, but I don't want it to drag on too long because Matthew's got a draft ready. So it's time for us to take a look at it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, the better probably, right? So we have enough time.
Okay, so we'll put it on the agenda for August to discuss.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else?
No, that's pretty much all I had. The Friends of the Library are still doing their silent book group, which seems to be going pretty well for them. And they're also meeting so are they meeting this Thursday, Leanne? Maybe.
No,
They met last
no, they
Thursday?
take the summer off. The next meeting is
Right, they're off
September.
for the summer.
Okay. All right. So they'll meet in September and then they'll have to charge right into book sale because the book sale is end of September.
Yep.
A question, I don't know on report what circulation spine means.
Oh, that's the section of wall between the library desk and the senior center desk. So we often have the art displays kind of near the adult fiction and the audiovisual. That's one of the main places where people display their art. We call that the circulation spine.
Why?
That's what the architect labeled that hallway. So, because it kind of goes down the middle of the building. So I think it's more circulation of people, not circulation. I see that and I think circulation of books. But on the architectural plans, they labeled that 8-foot wide hallway that runs down the middle of the building. They called that the circulation spine.
Maybe we should rename that. It doesn't make sense. It's like an art wall.
I love that. Fine. All right. Anything else for Matthew on the director's report? Okay. On to our favorite topic. So I think we're all set with the performance review itself for last year. So I think the topic right now is going to be the goals. So almost everyone contributed something to this list. What I did was I tried to group it in categories to try to fit into, 4 or 5 goals because the form asks for 5 goals. So I divided it out as best I could there's one topic that's operations, budget, professional development. It was kind of a laundry list of whatever was left. So that one's a little strange. But we can go through these goals. I think it's important enough to go through them one by one. We don't have to discuss all of them, but if there is no discussion and Matthew's all set, then we can move on to the next goal. And I guess discuss each one and decide what we want to do with that goal. Do we want to keep it? Do we want to change it? Do we want to get rid of it?
Debbie, before you start, can I just say a couple words? First, I know that this process is kind of odd because you kind of all brainstorm these things in isolation. I mean, maybe you talk to each other, I don't know, but so we kind of have like 9 individual voices suggesting things, and I noticed some of them seemed either they could be combined, or some might even be a little contradictory in some places. And I'm also concerned about, and I've mentioned this before, just when you adopt goals, for me, it can't just be, here's a bunch of more stuff we want you to do, right? Maybe some of them should be do the things you're doing better or reprioritize, but there's got to be, we can't just approve all of them, and you don't have to approve all of them. You can prioritize, and that's why, one of the reasons why when I saw this, I made some comments, especially that how much time I thought each one would take. And what I'd like to suggest is maybe the ones that I flagged as a significant time investment, maybe only approve no more than like 4 of those, or even pick your top 3 or something, or the ones that you don't prioritize, maybe we could do a reduced version, or that could be more planning than implementing. But I would be concerned if you approved everything on this list and told me to do all of it, because I don't think that's realistic.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll get there, but goals are things for you to do. I mean, that's the purpose of goals, is to give you things we would like to see you accomplish in the next year. So it is, to some degree, it is, these are the things we want you to do. Now, some of these things, you can come back and say, I investigated time-saving measures and we're using our time as best we can. Goal done. It's not, some of these things, I think, you may have read something into it. And I think it's some of my suggestions that you might have read something into. So, we can go over that. But the things that I put on the list, and also some of the things that other people did, we're dealing with a certain number of hours in the week for you and for Leanne and the entire staff. So there's only so much time in the week. There's only so many staff members, and there's only so much in the budget for programs or supplies or whatever. So we're working with constraints that are real, and we need to figure out the best way to use your time and what we want you to do. So I think some of it was not meant to be a criticism of the way the staff is working now. Everybody seems to be working great. I mean, it's going well. You guys are watching costs. You're doing lots of things. I've started volunteering in the library, so I've spent a few days, not a few days, but a few hours here and there at the library, and there's a lot to be commended, right? But the town wants us to come up with goals. So we're in the position where the town is saying, we want you to come up with 5 goals, and the goals need to stretch you. They shouldn't be too easy, or all of them shouldn't be too easy, right? They're supposed to stretch you, and we're just trying to get the most out of the library and the staff as we can with the constraints we have.
Yeah, I'd love to see, I've
so-
never seen another department head's goals. I'd love to, what are the DPW director's goals? Like, I have no idea. I will say I greatly appreciate
They're
that
set by one person, though. See, they're
Yeah.
set by one person, right? I assume it's the town manager or board of selectmen. It could be the board of selectmen, actually, right? But we've got 8 in this case, voices that are all contributing, and it's a very unique and cumbersome situation. It would be much easier if it were a smaller group or if it was just one person doing it. So that's the reason for some of this. And there is some crossover, there's some duplication, there are things that can be combined. But I wanted to make sure that each trustee who had given me a suggestion, that they saw it on the list. Now, if we want to combine them and reword them and whatever, we can do that. But I don't want a trustee to say, well, where are the goals that I suggested? I don't see them here. You know, so a lot of them were just, this is what somebody asked. That's what they suggested. So, you know, some of the things, some of your comments reflected that it could be combined or, you know, part of another goal. So it's kind of a unique process that is not great. It's
Yeah.
very difficult. It's cumbersome. And because things are going well in the library, we still need to come up with goals for you. We have, you know, so as well as things are going, you know, we're looking to poke different places to see if we can make things a little better in the next year. So I don't want you to take any offense to the goals that were suggested. They really were not meant. I mean, there was one comment that was really an opinion, but the rest of it was really just trying to get as much out of the library and the staff as we can, and creating time for you to do the things that we want you to do. And you see passports on the list again. You know, passports are big on the survey, right? Everybody wants them. It's like number 2 or 3. But they're taking your time. And, you know, the trustees really don't want to spend your salary on passport processing. And I think we've said that consistently. So, you know, that may be something you're going to need to investigate. Try to find another person that can help out, or, you know, reduce the number of hours that are spent on it. At least try it. And then if the next year you find, hey, people are complaining, then we may make a change at that point. But I mean, I'm hoping you didn't take offense to any of these goals. They really were not meant to imply that the library is a mess or it's not functioning well. It's functioning very well. But
No, I didn't
like I
get that
said,
impression. I didn't get that impression at all. My 2 concerns were, one, it's a lot because I know it was 9 people, right? If every person suggests one thing that is useful and might take a little, and then you multiply that by 9, all of a sudden you have this overwhelming list. And then the second thing is, because this is what my performance evaluation is going to get graded on next year, I don't want to commit to a goal that I think is unreachable going in. I do want to say one more thing before you discuss. I do really appreciate that the trustees are not trying to use sort of like numerical metrics. You know, in past years, occasionally someone's like, oh, let's make a goal of raise circulation by 10%. Right? That's a type of goal that would make me very uncomfortable in a public service setting, right? You know, if I was a salesman and, you know, your sales numbers have to go up a certain amount, but sometimes the things that could make some of the numbers go up are things that would make everyone's experience less pleasant, right? Like if all I wanted to do was make circulation numbers go up, I would be buying, you know, 10 copies of a bestseller and no copies of a local author, that sort of thing, you know? So I appreciate that you're not putting those kind of number metrics on the goals, because those can be awkward. All right. I will thank you for letting me have that discussion, and I'll let you guys talk about the goals, and I'll chime in if you need me to. And I did invite Elaine in here as well, because a lot of the goals seemed around proposed goals based around programming, and children's programming is a huge part of the library. And I thought her perspective on what's feasible and what's possible and what we've tried and what we haven't tried might be valuable if you need it when you get there.
Okay, quick question. On this list, we only pick about 4 or 5 goals. So is the intention to come up with 4 or 5 goals from this list of 35? or not?
No, because I think some of them can be combined to,
Okay,
because if
So a
you look
goal-
at last year, we had a programming goal, but there were some that were kind of bullet points of things that we, wanted to either do or investigate or try. So there were kind of bullet points underneath each category. So this was my first attempt at what the bullet points would be, but it's not meant to be this long. I mean, there are a couple that are really long. Advertising and outreach, those are fairly short. The policies and procedures fairly short, but operations and programming are a little longer. So we'll have to see. We may have to cut it off and say, look, in a year, that's too much. I may need to take our discussion tonight. I'm sure I will actually take our discussion tonight and work on it again and whittle it down, consolidate it, maybe eliminate something or add something or change something, and then come back with a more consolidated list that will be slightly shorter.
And
Sound okay?
I like the approach, Debbie. I really like the approach. You did this last year of putting them in categories.
Yeah.
Because that's easy. When you have to grade this, remember next May you're going to have to grade these things. So having the categories and then the subheadings, it's easy to look at that bullet points and say, okay, this got done, this was not really successful, and then you can turn that into a score. And some of the easy ones, like I don't mind, having some of those easy ones that are probably just my routine tasks anyway. Those are easy to check off. So don't feel like you have to only have 5 things.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll give you some slam dunks, so don't worry about that. We'll build those in there. Okay, all right. So under policies and procedures, I think those are the 2 we all agree on. He's working on them right now. We've kind of had some deadlines. We may want to push the deadline out to September and maybe October for the strategic plan. Matthew, do you think October for a draft for us by October 15th? Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah. So the way these are worded are that's the date I have to present something to the trustees. It's not on me if the trustees spend 3 months talking about it after that. All right. I've done my job by presenting it to you, and I do well with deadlines. So I like having a date where I know something has to be done. That's the reason why some of these have dragged on so long, is because they were all sort of, there's no deadline, let's just push it. Oh, we got many things to do this month. So putting a deadline is good for me.
Yeah, you're right. The strategic plan, we're not going to see it on October 15th and pass it. There's no way. We're going to have to look at it, discuss it. It's going to take a while. But if your draft is ready for our October meeting, whenever that is, then, if we drag our feet, you can't really do too much about that. We certainly would like to finalize it. I guess you may have to push us to finalize it, just to help us out, keep us on track, because these are the discussions that can take forever. They can drag on and on. Charlotte?
Yes, Matthew, you mentioned, and it was in your report, I believe, that the trustees have to work on some of the priorities for that plan. So is that something that should be done in tandem with you while you're working on it? Or can we, when we get it on October 15th or whatever the date is, then we can do our planning? What works best?
No, I'll need at least the general. You guys have to pick. These are the priorities for the next 5 years. So actually, the goal discussion you're having tonight can probably flow pretty well into, things you're identifying as my priorities for the next year are probably also things you want the whole library to do for the next 5 years. So I can do it right now. I could sit down and I can do, I have to do the introduction and the description of the community and the planning process and all that kind of introduction narrative part, and then the bulk of it, well, not the bulk of it, actually, the interesting part, which might only be a couple pages long, is these are the goals and this is how we're going to get there. So in the next couple months,
Couple
I'll
of
need the trustees to pick, these are the goals, and then I can do well, here's some ways I think we can get there.
Right.
And can we
And
do
if it's
that at a
flipped,
regular
then it's our
meeting?
fault.
Yeah, I think so.
Go ahead, Charlotte.
I'm sorry, Deb. No, I just wondered, can we do that at a regular meeting, or would it require something outside of a meeting?
Well, the strategic plan may require a lot of discussion because I think we have all the survey results, right, Matthew? You've given us everything, or roughly.
Yes,
everything?
we're actually still getting, every week I get one or two more of those. So I think I got to cut it off though, because I can't just, I can't add more results and then go recalculate all the charts. So I think I'm going to cut off anything that comes in from now on will just be informational. But we have our
Okay,
data. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have the report. So we should be, I mean, if we put it on the August or September agenda, again, to just discuss it and see if we can come up with the priorities for us in this, that should be in the strategic plan. I think that would be helpful as a place to start. Anybody else have any ideas? Believe me, I don't have all the ideas. I'm just trying to throw something out there.
Some libraries, as part of their strategic planning, will do like either a public workshop or a public forum or a focus group kind of a thing. I don't know if Upton is big enough that you want to do that. I mean, I kind of feel like the 9 trustees are the voice of the community. But if you wanted to do a public hearing sort of thing where you invited people, like the visioning workshop, sometimes the planning board will do something like that. If you wanted to invite people in to chat about it, sometimes that just gives you a lot more. Sometimes that's not helpful at narrowing down priorities. It just gives you more options. But we could, if that's something you wanted to do.
So I don't know if anybody wants to have a separate meeting. I guess instead of a subcommittee, have a second meeting in probably September, I guess, not during the summer. A second meeting in September to discuss just the strategic plan. Anybody have thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
Second?
I
I think
agree.
so too.
Okay. All right. So I'll throw out some dates. And that would be just to discuss, not the actual document, but the priorities that we'd like to see for the library. What's the time frame, Matthew? Is it like what we want to do in the next 5 years or 10 years, or is there a time frame that we're looking at?
No, they used to call it a 5-year plan, and now the preferred term is strategic plan. So, but it's in that range. It can vary, but it's basically what you can't usefully predict much more than 5 years. So it's kind of like the next 3 to 5 years. Where do you want the library to be headed? What do you want your priorities to be? What services are most important? How do you want to allocate resources and space and staff time and that sort of stuff?
Okay. All right. So I'll throw out some dates to do a separate meeting, and if we can get 5 of us, to at least be able to meet on a particular date, we'll go with it. And because we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
All right. Okay. So back to the list. So we've covered policies and procedures. Those are pretty well taken care of. You've already started them, so you're well on your way. Now, in the operations budget professional development category, the first one about passports, I just talked about a few minutes ago. I mean, we just want to investigate and potentially find somebody else to help to free up your time to do other things. We've had this discussion for a couple of years now, and obviously it brings in a lot of money and people love it. But, in addition to your facility maintenance functions, you combine those two and it's just a large chunk of time that is spent on it. So think we want to try to find someone else that you might be able to get trained on it.
So if I may, I know that Matthew utilizes the hired staff as much as possible. I don't think anyone
Right.
has any extra, like, there's a lot of duty. Would it be ever possible to suggest to the town that it be a hired position by the town that's located in the library? And would that be, so it's not one of our staff, but another whole position? Because it seems to me it's probably about a $15 or $20 an hour position, and somebody could do a great job with that. Matthew does a great job too, but then we lose him as a library person. So I just don't know if that's an option, whereas I don't know that I know scheduling is even tough as it is. So I'm throwing that.
So this is not a new issue, as Debbie said, and I've talked about it a lot with Michaela. We've sort of changed what staff I've been trained and what staff haven't. The issue we run into, so the first thing is the passports happen erratically, right? There's appointments are scattered all over the week. They're not consistent. Some Saturdays, last Saturday, I had no appointments and one person dropped in. So I did one drop-in appointment last Saturday. Some Saturdays I have 6 appointments and I spend 4 hours straight doing nothing but passports. But the fact that it's so erratic means it would be very difficult if we hired someone to only do passports. Some days they would sit there and do nothing.
Do nothing.
Some days they would be too busy. And of the library staff, Michaela and I are the most flexible in terms of most of the stuff we're doing could be done at almost any time, except unless we're running a program. So you think about, we could train a library specialist or a library assistant to do it, but then if a library assistant goes to do a passport, they're coming off the circulation desk, and now I have to go cover the circulation desk. So it's easier for me to just do the passport. And we're both there the most hours. We both really feel like the number of passports we get on average is not enough to have a third trained person. Because if you only do one of these a week, the more you do, the better you are at them. It's, very specific procedures you kind of have to walk through, and then there's weird exceptions you have to remember. So like when I go away for 2 weeks and don't do any passports and come back, there's a little bit of a retraining, getting back in the swing of it. So we don't really have enough volume if we tried to spread that over 3 people or 4 people, no one person would do enough. We talked about the idea, well, could we limit what times appointments are available, but the ability to make an appointment at hours that the post office is not open is a very strong part of the service. That's why people like to come to Upton Library, because we do it at the times when everyone's home and their kids are not at nap time, and they can get the whole family there. So I think I know it feels bad to have the highest paid employees doing this task, but we are really, because of how erratic it is and how much of an advantage being flexible is, we're really the best ones to do it. And not that other staff wouldn't be good ambassadors, but it really, for a lot of people, coming to get their passport is the first time they've ever set foot in that building. And having a very knowledgeable, Michaela and I we use it as an opportunity to introduce people to the community center and other library services. And I'm not saying the other staff couldn't do that. Everyone would do a great job representing the library, but just the amount of knowledge and consistency that Michaela and I have, I think enhances the service. So basically anything you do to move passport services away from me and Michaela is going to make the service less attractive to people. Whatever change we make, whether it's limiting appointment hours or saying we can't do drop-ins or we can only do 5 appointments per week, it's going to make it a less useful service to the residents. I talked to Michaela, actually today I talked to her about it again, and one thing we think might work, because we have two big staffing problems right now. One is the passport issue, and one is not having enough people on Saturdays. So my thought kind of is, could we make a new position, 8 to 12 hours, maybe 12 hours a week, make it be a Saturday shift and another shift during the week, so 2 shifts a week, make that person passport trained, and then have the flexibility that it could be a new person or it could be an existing library specialist who wants to become benefited, and the trade-off would be they'd have to work most Saturdays. Whoever we couldn't hire someone who only knows how to do passports would not be an effective position, because they spend a lot of time sitting around. But whoever did that, if for the library, would have to also know how to do other things. They'd have to be a library staff person and have passports. Whether I don't think anyone else in the town wants to take it on. And if we said the library is not doing it, then we just won't have anywhere in Upton that does passports. The Upton post office doesn't do it. The town's not going to hire someone to sit and do 10 passport applications a week. They just won't. They'll just say go somewhere else and get your passport. But that's what I'm kind of thinking. That's my ideal. The only solution I've come up with that I think could work. Whether we could get that past the personnel board and the finance committee is a whole nother question. We've added a lot of staff in the last 3 years. Could we justify another position? I don't know. But that's my thought on how we could solve that. Unless the trustees want to say we're not interested in doing a good job at passport applications.
Well, now that you framed it that way.
I mean, that's what it comes down to.
Right.
Anything that limits the number of appointments or the timing of appointments is going to make people have a tougher experience.
Okay, so we've got 5 or 6 trustees here right now. Let's hear from everyone. I mean, this has come up, Tracy, you're new, but this has come up for the last couple of years. It's a double-edged sword for the library. It's obviously popular. It does bring in some money to the town. It does bring in some money to the library, but there are some downsides. So Tracy, you might not be able to participate as much as the others, but I want to hear from other folks whether we're willing to pass over and just get that out of our minds as a goal, or ask Matthew to investigate one of the options. Not hiring somebody, that doesn't sound like it's going to do anything.
Right now, up in any time, and we do it.
What did you just say?
I'm wondering if, are there any rules around when you do it now, or can people drop in any time and somebody will help them?
So we require an appointment. We take appointments ideally any time the library is open. But Michaela and I look at our schedules and we block anytime neither one of us is going to be available, we block it off so you can't make an appointment at all. And then when the appointment comes in, we coordinate on reviewing them. So it comes in as a request and then we have to confirm the appointment. And there are certainly times when we've written back to people and said, I'm sorry, we can't accommodate your request. So appointments are, as much as we can between the two of us, we have pretty good coverage. There's only a few hours per week where I'm not there and Michaela's doing a book group or something. We block it off. Now, that's appointments. We do get a lot of requests for walk-ins, and we try to accommodate them. If one of us is available and not doing anything else, we will accommodate a walk-in. Often we have to say, no, we can't. If you're just coming in for a photo, that's easier than doing the whole thing. So we require appointments, but we attempt to accommodate walk-ins as much as feasibly possible.
Would you say that Saturday is a busy day for passports?
Yes. And we're talking, we average about 8 to 10 a week. So it's, and each one, well, probably a little less than that. It was, what was our total for this month? It feels like it's 8 to 10 per week.
27 or something.
27. So you
Something
divide
like
that
that.
by 4. So that's, 7. So maybe 5 to 10 a week. And each one probably takes an hour by the time people come in, do the appointment, and then we get it to the post office. So that's
This
what we're
is gonna be-
investing. Between the
this
two
will
of
be a
us, we're probably
low-
investing 8 hours a week.
But this is like the biggest vacation week of the year, so this would be a low week. There's been times when there was over 60 in a month, right?
The most I can remember is 47, because I remember that month.
I think it's at 65 was
Is that the record?
Yeah, there's the right. It only happened once, but yeah.
Yeah, typically we're in the 30 range.
I'd still like to see some notes. Too. Go ahead.
Okay,
Mm.
let's discuss. Charlotte, go.
Yeah, just a simple thing. I think when I saw the financial report and that $13,000 that was earned by passports went to the town, I get the goodwill, but I think it would go a long way if we were able to reinvest that money into the library. I think it would soften the blow, so to speak.
Yeah.
So the answer that the FinCom will give, because
Yeah.
we've raised this question before, is that
Mhm.
the library budget gets appropriated from the town. So if you need more money, put it in your budget and appropriate it. There is no other department. Well, the RecCom kind of runs off of fees, but every other department that charges a fee doesn't keep those in their operating budget. Trash bags go to the general fund. Building permits go to the general fund. So that would be a very unusual request in the FinCom's eyes. They would say,
Yeah.
if you need money to do something, you appropriate it through town meeting. You don't use passport money as some sort of bonus operating expense.
Well, okay. And so how do we get to keep the money from the pictures?
Mm.
We got real lucky, and the finance director said, yeah, throw it in the revolving fund. We justified it by using that to pay the postage, but we're getting a lot more photo money than postage cost is happening. So I would say scrutiny upon that is more likely to result in us losing the photo money than gaining the fee money.
Yeah, it's just that, except that you're putting your hours in for that, that's all. I don't know.
Right.
I know
Yeah.
towns.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm presenting what
I
I've
know.
heard from the FinCom is that,
Right.
staff in all departments do activities for which fees are charged, and those fees go to the town's general fund.
Right.
It just seems like that money that's coming in could be used to pay this person. And I know you, Kayla, do a great job, but I could think of other people who would do a great job too. It would be wonderful with
Yeah, but they're
people who come in.
erratic though. Lori, what
Right.
happens if we have somebody working and there are no passports that come in?
Yeah.
Right, but
No.
had set up, people would learn in time to work within those hours and get their passport needs met, I would think.
Mm.
So restrict it to when that person was working is what you're saying.
Right, like Saturday and 2 weeknights or something like that. People would, I think, in time.
Okay.
All right.
Anyone else want to comment on it? Green, Judith, Tracy?
Well,
right.
maybe restricting it might be the best option. I
Could
don't
you
know.
experiment with doing it between certain hours and see what happens?
Mm.
Yes. I'm not sure we'd hear from the people that are on. So let's say we said Saturdays and Tuesday nights only, because that might be reasonable.
Mhm.
I guess what would show whether it's accept, like if we drastically did less passports per month after we made those restrictions. I don't think people would necessarily call us and say, wow, this really stinks. I wish you had other hours. They'd either just book an appointment or they wouldn't book an appointment.
Well, I think the numbers would tell us a lot, right? And also if they called and said, I can only do it Monday night, you say you can only do it Tuesday night or Saturday, they may give you an earful. I mean, it may be anecdotal, I guess, but also the revenue would go down. That number would probably go down.
It might go down a little, but I think in time it would come back up. People learn. There's lots of things that are open certain times.
True.
Right.
If you're
Okay.
leaning that way, I guess I would accompany that with, do you allow walk-ins at all? Or if someone walks into the desk and Michaela and I are sitting there, do we say no, go away and make an appointment?
Oof, that's tough.
I'm going to tell you right
Can I-
now, I'm willing to let it go.
Can I ask a
I
question?
don't know. There is no good solution. Yes, Leanne.
I was just gonna say, if when people go, I had to make an appointment for a passport and I couldn't go to Upton because I work there. I had to make an appointment at Hopkinton Post Office. They don't take walk-ins. I had to book an appointment. So
Uh-huh.
my vote would be, I don't get a vote, but my say would be appointment only, and don't take walk-ins if every other place has
Right.
to book appointments.
Right.
It would
Well,
just
do
be
you
really
get that
tough
many-
with someone. Yeah.
Do you get that many walk-ins?
Yes, and often those are the people that are most appreciative because they have some sort of exigent circumstances, or it's hard for them to get their both working parents and their kids in the same place at the same time. We also do a fair amount of coaching people through renewals, which I sort of see more. It's just a reference question, right? We coach people through making a resume, and we coach people through, getting a fishing permit and that sort of stuff. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to stop. And that's again another advantage in having full-time people trained, because we're there and we can answer questions.
So how do we feel about appointment only? Is that worth experimenting with over 3-6 months?
Is this accompanied with limited hours? Because if we're not limiting the hours, then
Right.
it makes sense to allow walk-ins, because someone's just gonna say, okay, I'll go sit down on the computer and make an appointment for 10 minutes from now.
Right. Right. Yeah, you'd have to limit the hour. You'd have to set the hours you're willing to make appointments for on
So
Saturday
I guess I'd be happier with, if we're going to limit the hours, if we're going to say passport services are only available on Saturdays and Wednesday nights, we could still take walk-ins on a Saturday, but we would not take a walk-in on a Friday. It would be passports. I'd be happier with passport services are only available during these particular hours, and not worry so much about, is it an appointment or is it a walk-in?
I could live with that.
Yeah, you could do appointment preferred or something like that, where you sort of nudging people during certain whatever hours are selected. That way, it may help to have a sense that 3 families or 2 people, whatever it looks like, are walking in on a Saturday, and you or Michaela can plan around that. But then those are the days that are available for those. I mean, also
Okay.
understanding I wouldn't be the person at the front when someone has to be told no. So that's always
That's so hard.
not easy either. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's certainly a
Okay.
lot easier to say we can't do passport services during today than it is to,
Yeah.
if someone comes in on a Saturday and we're going to say, well, you don't have an appointment, so I'm not going to help you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It might be worth a
Okay,
try,
so-
to try
I
a
think
couple of
so.
So
days.
you limit the hours and allow walk-ins during those hours.
Yeah, if it's possible, right? Obviously,
Okay.
you need an appointment. Like if I have back-to-back appointments and you show up, I'm going to tell you, no, I can't help you. I have appointments all day, So
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's certainly appointments
Okay.
are recommended, strongly recommended.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move on to the next one so we can try to get through this before dawn.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I know, it's one of the ones that we just continuously get stuck on, so it takes a lot of discussion. So the next item, I will raise my hand and say that I submitted that suggestion. It was not, it was the entire staff. I just wanted, from volunteering at the library, spending time with Leanne and just seeing what's going on at the library. There's so much going on at the library. There's so much to be done. And again, we only have so many hours in the day, so many hours in the week, and only so much staff. So I thought it was worth investigating, just investigating it. Is there anything that each staff person could do to save some time and maybe redirect it elsewhere? Now, it's also, as you said, I think F&G also kind of, it's really just, if we ink the money and we somehow free up some time, that's the purpose of that suggestion. Anyone else want to comment on this?
Yeah, thanks for this explanation. Really helps me a lot because when I read these things in isolation, it's not sometimes clear what the intent is. So that
know.
helps. Yeah, I
know.
certainly if it's just investigation and it's just sort of, hey, everybody keep your eyes out. Hey, let's brainstorm. Maybe at the staff training day, everybody is there a procedure that's taking 5 steps and we could cut it down to 3? My one hesitation that immediately came to my mind is some of the things that we could do to free up time would be by, again, being less flexible and less front, right? Because, me being on the phone with someone for 10 minutes about what science fiction books they like, or, that's some of the things I do look like a way, it's not achieving anything towards the library's operations, but that may be the only good conversation that patron has in that week. So some of the things that waste a lot of time are valuable.
Yeah, that's not really what I meant. It's more, the process of doing X, could we do X once a week instead of every day? Or could we do it every other week instead of every week? Or that's what I'm talking about. No, that's library business. You're talking to a patron about their interests in books. So that's certainly not what I meant from it. It really was just seeing what we could do.
Like workflow kind of things, like this takes 2 steps. Or one thing we don't do much of is like automation. I know I'm very wary of AI and allowing AI to automate any tasks that produce content that people are going to see, but that's the sort of thing that businesses look, I know businesses look at, hey, if you touch that piece of paper 2 times instead of 4 times, you save, over a year. So if you're just looking at procedures and things, are there ways, we still mail bills? Is it valuable to still mail reminder bills if people haven't brought their things back? Maybe that's, a lot of libraries don't do that anymore. So that's okay. That makes me feel like it's more just sort of investigating. I mean, you wouldn't want to go as far as like hiring a consultant, right? Like at a work consultant.
No.
Because
No,
sometimes, I'm just saying,
not...
sometimes an outside perspective, like we've done something the same way for 20 years, maybe someone else looking at it and saying, hey, did you know that you could write a, Excel macro that will do that for you in 10 seconds instead of
Yeah.
an hour of you typing on a calculator?
No, that's definitely not what I meant, but it may be that another library does something differently than you do, and if you tried it their way, maybe it would save some time. It's just it's a generic example, but no, it's whatever, just be mindful of that and see if there's any way that time can be saved so that it can be spent on other things. That's all.
Hmm.
Does anybody have a problem with that goal? Does anybody want to?
It might be hard to grade. I mean, if I come back in May and said, yeah, I investigated it and I didn't find anything.
Easy A. I mean, it's not going to be a goal by itself, right, Matthew? It's going to be part of a goal.
Yeah.
So if you investigated it and the word is investigate, you come back to us and on a monthly director's report and say, look, I've checked with 5 area towns and seeing how they do whatever, and it looks like we're all doing it the same way. Or you might come back with, I've seen a couple of things that we might be able to do that would save some time. So I'm not expecting you to find something. I'm just asking to investigate it, be mindful of it, and see if some time can be freed up. That's really all. Okay.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay. Okay.
I almost think that might be a good thing for the strategic plan. I mean, we no longer have build a new library to, that sounds like something that could be sort of an ongoing, all staff wide, ensure that
Yes.
library procedures are using best practices kind of strategic goal kind of thing.
Right. Yep. I think you're right. Could be. It's an ongoing thing. It's, you're not going to just look at what can save you time now. You're going to, it's going to be a continuing thing. So that's the purpose of that. All right. So anybody have an objection to that before I move on? Okay. Now the next one, C, D, E, and F, and G, and H, no, just up to G. Those were all your goals that you suggested. So I put them in because they were your suggestions. So I don't know if I did add delegate as many as possible because we're trying to free up, some of your time. So, but those were your goals. So do you
Yeah.
have any issues with those?
No, just I mean, because I did these in isolation, not knowing if, maybe you guys had a whole list of goals, maybe no one would come up with anything. So the ones about making the daily schedules, I think they'd take some time to set up. That was something, I think it was either Alicia or Lauren. They said something at a previous meeting about using some monthly checklists, and it really made me think, yeah, like that's something that might really help me. So I'd be kind of excited about doing it. But if you have lots of other goals that you think are a higher priority, then feel free to take them out. The training day is something that we were supposed to do last year that didn't really happen. So I'd like to focus on that because it was really nice. The 1 year that we did it, it was really nice. The internship the internship is kind of a softball one because we're doing it this summer and it wouldn't be too hard. We've already set the background for making that a regular thing.
Right. So that's going to be an easy one. So some are easier than others. I mean, some are just, some are going to be really stretching your time and skills, but some of them are going to be easier. Does anybody have any feedback on those C through G that Matthew, because you said review staffing needs and present a plan. It sounded to me like you had some ideas that you wanted to hire another part-timer.
Well, we're at the point where we need it, and I'm debating between the two routes we could go are another part-time person or take one of our part-timers and make them closer. We couldn't get 40 hours, but maybe we take somebody and make them 30, 31 hours and they get better, it makes a more attractive position. My hesitation is, could we get that past the FinCom? I feel like we've added staff almost every year for the last 3 years. We need it. We have Saturdays are an issue. Saturdays, we struggle to staff Saturdays, especially if I'm not available. And we have some holes during the week. So we definitely could use another 12 hours of staff time spread across the week. And if that also gets justified by making it a passport specialist who also does library stuff, maybe that helps. Then we can say, hey, this person is bringing in $13,000 a year, so that helps justify the cost. I don't know. That's a sort of a political thing where, do we wait another year or do we just go for it?
Okay. Well, worth a shot. I suppose the only thing they can say is no. I mean,
Mhm.
you know, you justify it, do your best, and if you think you need it sounds like you do. So, you know, I'd like to leave it in there. It doesn't mean you're going to get it approved or the goal isn't met. It's just, you know, if you think we need another part-time person or adding hours, then, you know, it's worth doing. Last call on C
I
through
was just
D.
gonna say, I would agree with Matthew on that.
On
There
what?
are,
They
there,
need somebody?
yeah, there are gaps in the week and Saturdays especially.
Yep. Okay. Let's see. Evaluate the usage of magazines and periodicals. And I think you said that's part of your ongoing, whatever, your ongoing process is to review those and see
Okay.
how common they are, how popular they are. Is that right?
Yes, unless the trustees felt that they were considering not having a magazine collection at all. If it's just a matter of tweaking what titles we have and how many we have, that we do ongoing. So, I mean, you can leave it on there and it'll be kind of a gimme, or you can just take it off because it's part of our regular process anyway.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I think Judith, you were the person that did
Yes.
suggest that. Are you,
Yeah.
since it's already sort of part of their already
Take
procedure,
it
can
off.
I take it out?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. I agree with that. Now, the museum pass, I don't really remember. I know that it's a faulty decision, but since you have limited funds from them, you're already doing it. I mean, I've been to the faulty meetings where it's like only 2 people used this pass in the past year, and you know the recommendation is to not renew it or consider not renewing it. So I think that that's something that you're already doing. We know that you have no power to eliminate a pass, but you could recommend that the friends eliminate a pass, right?
Yeah. Whenever a pass is up for renewal, I send the usage data and my personal recommendation to the friends, and then they vote on doing that. So I think
Right.
based
Right.
on the intent of this goal, I think we're probably already doing it. I just didn't want to be, again, graded on something that I don't have authority over.
No. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's, yeah, I mean, I don't remember who suggested it. I'm trying to look on my sheet to see who suggested it. I don't know. I don't think, it could be me. I don't remember, but I'm going to take it out unless someone has an objection.
Yeah.
But I am involved in that process.
Yeah.
The friends don't do this in isolation. I certainly provide them
Yeah.
data and a recommendation.
Okay, so the next one is using more full team funds. So I have spent a fair amount of time with going to the meetings, looking at how much money they make and spend and what's in their coffers, and trying to figure out how we can use more of their money. And I asked, just for statistics, I asked Tony for kind of a profit loss, like what happened in the past 2 years. And he said that they made a profit of $1,300 in 2023, $5,500 roughly in 2024. And he thinks 2025, it's not done yet, but he thinks it's going to end up around 7,900. This year, he's not sure about, but I guess things are looking good. So, and they have a lot of money in their war chest. I mean, a lot. And we only have so much money. We only have so many people. We've got these constraints. If we present something, it's up to them to decide and say, no, we don't want to spend that money. You know, it's their decision. We should be pushing that and trying to get more funds from the Friends. Given the treasurer's report, he does it in an open meeting every month, and they've got a good amount of money, and they're making a profit last few years. So, you know, I'm not suggesting we use all of the profit or all of the money in their war chest. I realize they want to keep that, but it's invested, so it's also making money. And I think we should try to find ways to use more of their funds. Make the request and make them give you a decision, yes or no, whether they want to spend the money on your suggestion or proposal. That is my goal, and I've been talking to just about everybody about it. And you know, Leanne had a great program on Saturday it wasn't full. There were some no-shows, right? But it was a great program. It only cost a couple $100. So I guess she's going to do it once each quarter. Well, if it's really popular, why not try to stick one or two more in the year and ask the Friends to pay for it? It's a couple $100, $400. You know, that's just an example. I have no idea if that's a program you want to invest more money and time in, but I really want to try to investigate using more of their money. I'm going to shut up now and have you give me your feedback.
So my hesitation is, I feel like if the request comes from me, like, I don't think, other than, well, that's not true. That Friends have told me no, because they told me no on the drum circle. Typically, if Friends don't say no to a request from the library director, which is why I'm very hesitant to make requests, because I don't want to sort of put them in the position of having to say no. Because that doesn't look good, you know, library director. So I'm very careful that the only things I ask for are things that we definitely need, can't fund any other way. I think maybe this should be more of start of discussion with the Friends about how would they like to use their funds? What's their plan for their funds? Do they have a saving goal? Do they want their net profit to be zero at the end of the year? What kind of things do they like? I'd feel better if it was more of an open conversation than me coming up with a list and saying, please fund these. Because I don't want to.
I agree with you. No, I agree with you. That's a great start. The whole thing is a mystery. I mean, I've had to pull, you know, emails and go to the meetings and ask the questions and meet with Alice and meet with Tony and get follow-up questions answered. It's not easy. And I don't know that they have a plan for how, or a philosophy on how they want their group to go. And so I agree, that would be a great discussion to have with them. I'm not suggesting once a year, by the way, that you just say, I'd like these 10 things. If you find a program that's great and you want to offer it more, that's what I'm talking about, making that kind of request. But I think starting with a discussion, I would love to know myself. I mean, I keep asking, I don't understand. Why do you have so much money? It's hard to sort of ask them that bluntly, but they have a lot of money. And I don't know what they're going to use it for, or even some of it for, and they're making a profit. So I would love to have that discussion.
I was really surprised when you said they're making a profit. So that has to include interest on their investment accounts, because their fundraisers don't make anywhere near that much.
I'm sure it is, but that's money that we should be able to spend or request, I should say, request. That's up to them. It should, if they've, you know, made $1,300 in 2023, we didn't even know that. But if we did, then over the course of 2024, we might say, well, you know, can we push it a little further and maybe get a couple more programs? Or some more supplies or more toys for the children's area or whatever it might be. Yeah, we don't know what's going on. I don't know. To ask him, did you make a profit? And I'm sure part of it was their investments. But one of my questions for them is, what is the money for? What do you envision using that money for? A rainy day, a disaster, a COVID, a pandemic? Like, what's that money for if not to be used? Not all of it, nowhere near all of it. I'm just saying more of it. So I think a conversation with them would be great. I'm going to shut up. I really feel passionate about this. Until we investigate it and they say, no, you're already going as far as you can go, back off. Until they say that, then I think we should continue to discuss it with them. Lori.
I've been in discussions with them, and I feel that they're really clear that they would like more requests. It surprises me that they've said no. If you're talking about the drum circle, I believe they funded it for a year, and I think other things made it difficult for them to keep doing it. But so I don't know if that's a good example. With other something you asked for, Matthew, that they didn't fund?
No, but as I said, I'm very cautious about making requests for extras. It's pretty much it's their money, and they should take the initiative in how they spend it. I don't want to put them in. I don't want to put them on the spot of having to say, no, we're deciding Matthew's request is not getting funded. So I'm very cautious about requesting stuff.
Do you expect them to come to you and say, hey, we got an extra 500? Where can you use it, Matthew?
The relationship between library directors and friends groups is so varied across different libraries. Some friends groups have massive fundraising and run all the programming for the entire library. Some friends groups do book sales and museum passes and nothing else. So I think you're right, David. I think we need to start a conversation, and we need to sort of. They have some new they have some new leadership now.
Right.
Maybe pin them down a little bit on, they experimented with scholarships last year. Is that something they want to keep doing? Do they want to do mostly programming? Some of the things that we need are not super flashy thing. Like, we're getting to the point where we're going to need a new paint job on some of the walls in the library. Is that something they would fund? I don't know. It's not as exciting as a puppet show, but it needs to get done, and the town's not going to pay for it. So I think if we open the discussion and see where they are and what they want to do, do they want to pay for staff appreciate? Like, I can't buy pizzas for the staff from the town budget, but
Right.
maybe the friends want to, that list of stuff you guys are coming up with, maybe they want to fund that. That would be kind of a nice thing. Things that we're not allowed to use town money for, I think, are very valuable.
Yeah. Okay.
Extra supplies,
Right.
yeah. I know a chunk of their money, for a long time, the Friends were squirreling away any penny they could with the thought that it would go towards a new building, or it would be the seed money for a capital campaign. And then we got the community center funded without needing any of that. So I think that's why now they're a little bit at loose ends, because for 15 years they were saving everything they could for, and now the rainy day passed and it's sunny skies and they don't know what to do with their nest egg.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't think they know either.
I think they know, and they just want requests. That's what I
Well,
think.
we'll find out.
So many occasions, we are not an organization that's about making money. We're an organization who lives to serve the library's needs, and we would like them to use this money to do whatever they want with it. So we're hoping you play a way to find things that you want. I know that still comes in at the end in May, and sometimes that helps when the finances are a little bit underwater because the museum has to go out and they're waiting for that last book sale to come in I think that's sometimes why. And then, of course, they don't know about what they're making in terms of investment, that sort of thing. So that's why it's surprising. It looks like they not make as much money, but that's not really our affair as trustees. I think they just would like requests and as good services for the community as they can get.
Right. Okay. All right. So Matthew, you want to start that discussion with them? I'd love to be involved because I really want to understand what their philosophy is. And if they don't have one, they're going to have to discuss and decide what their philosophy is on, making donations to the library or paying for things at the library. So I think we may be pushing them in a direction they should go anyway, which is how to use their money.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense if we
All
phrase it as starting a discussion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Get it down.
Right. Although I do tell them flat out I want to use more of their money, and they laugh. But I do. I've told Alice. I told Tony. I'm like, I want to see us use more of your funds.
Well, if we ever get to the point we can have our sign, our signboard out in the street, that would be, if they want to spend, $25,000-$40,000 on a digital signboard.
Yeah. God. All right, we got a long way to go for that. Okay. So the next thing was the New York Times bestsellers, and that was also on my list. And you asked a question about lowering hold times. That's actually not a complaint, but a piece of feedback that we've gotten, which is, I look at the list, I want to get books from the list, but I got to wait X number of days because we only have one copy in the library, or maybe we have 0 copies, I don't know, and they have to wait to get it from another library. And I see that there is shelf space in the library, so it's not a spacing issue. It's probably a cost issue, but that's where that suggestion came from.
Yeah, so that was my clarifying question, because there's 2 different things that could be intended here, and maybe both. So one is what libraries call a browsing collection. That's where you walk in the library and there's a copy of a bestseller just sitting there, and you can take it off the shelf and check it out right away. So that's one thing, but that is very different from, so those copies don't fill holds, because if they filled holds, they wouldn't be there. Okay. So if you want to make the hold wait time shorter, you buy multiple copies of the same item and you let it fill holds. If you want to have books that are on the shelf that people can take right away, you buy more copies and you don't let them fill holds. So that makes the hold wait time longer, but it makes people feel good when they come in the library and they see a book that they want that's on the shelf.
Well, do most people make the requests electronically versus browsing and finding it? I don't know if you even know that, but.
Which people? So our model right now strongly pushes place a hold. If you want a new release title, you're gonna have to place a hold. You're not gonna walk in the library and find it on the shelf. And one of the reasons for that is a book that is sitting on the shelf in the library is not helping anyone. So if you just basically, if something's really popular, it's never going to be sitting on the shelf in the library, because if it's in a browsing collection, someone's going to come and take it, and then the person that comes in an hour after them is going to come in and say, well, how come you don't have anything I want on the shelf?
Right. Yeah.
Because the only things that are left on the shelf are the things that people aren't taking. So that was my question, because some libraries do set up, they call it a browsing collection, and it's copies of books that don't fill holds. So basically you get lucky that you happen to walk in the library on the exact time that it was there. But that doesn't, so it's 2 separate problems. I want to be able to grab it off the shelf and have it right away. That's one thing. The other thing is you want to lower the hold times. So if you want to lower the hold times, you buy extra copies and you let them fill holds.
That was my thought, was the latter.
Okay.
Because that's what people are saying. I'm putting a hold on it, but it takes 6 days instead of, potentially it's already in the library and it takes 1 day.
Right.
Well,
so
and it could take also months.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
the trade-off there is we have the same pool of money to buy items with. So if I buy 5 copies of, the correspondence, what 4 books am I not buying any copies of to make up for that?
Tough decision, but those
Yeah.
are popular books. Those new, I mean, I don't know. That's what I'm being told. I can't say that it's my experience, but it seems like people are saying that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
It's-
that's why it's a policy level. Our general policy has been in previous years is we very rarely buy second copies of something. Something that's a really hot title, maybe we buy 2 copies of it. We never buy 4, 5, 6 copies of anything. I'm not saying we can't do that. It's just that would be a policy level change from past practice.
So is that in the policies manual or?
In the collection development policy is kind of vague. It kind of hints at it doesn't explicitly say we won't buy multiple copies, but it says multiple copies will only be purchased in extremely high demand items basically.
Okay. All right. So I might take that off the goal list, but I would love to see us potentially investigate that when we get to the policy manual, I guess. That may be worth discussing it.
So that's essentially this is one of the few problems that just throwing more money at it can solve.
Right. And who
a lot
has
of problems
more money?
can. But maybe we go to the Friends of the Library, and maybe the Friends of the Library want to fund a browsing collection. That would be,
Who knows? We have no idea. We won't know until we discuss and maybe make that request. So, all right. Any other comment before we go on to the next one? I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can, but all right. So reviewing the talents, experience, and skills. So I think this is an ongoing thing. We really don't want to change job. Well, we might want to change job descriptions. It could be that somebody has a skill that somehow you were not aware of, and we may want to add it to their job description, which we'd have to go to the personnel board and do that whole process. But I mean, I'm assuming that when you do the staff reviews, you're thinking about those kinds of things. What kind of skills do they have? And is the library using those skills?
Again, this is where I wanted to sort of, whoever suggested this, what their intent was, because certainly anything that is library related, we have we have a number of employees now that work at multiple libraries. So we're always asking them, hey, if you see something at your other job that we can we can borrow, a procedure or something, let us know. I think we do a very good job with professional development. We're constantly letting our entry-level staff learn more skills, do cataloging, do collection development, that kind of stuff. What I don't think is appropriate is to take non-library related skills and sort of force them to be used at your job. Like, we have an employee who makes jewelry in her spare time. I would never ask that person to do a jewelry making workshop as part of their work time. So I guess, are there examples? Because that's what came to mind to me when I read this goal was non-library skills that we can exploit, which is what I don't want to do.
Is anybody here? We didn't mean the jewelry making. That example we're not talking about. I don't know who submitted this, but I can't believe that's what the person's looking for. But does anybody who's here, do they know if they suggested this?
No, but if this comes to mind, I think to myself, one, we could offer her to do a program that she's paid for, I suppose, and outside of work time. And she could say yes or no, of course. But then I thought about, we have an employee who has a lot of background in film making. And I had always thought that would be a fun thing to do with the team.
So we can't ask someone to do something that's outside their job description. And we also have to be very careful about there's a lot of I'd have to run a lot of this stuff past HR. Anything that's outside normal library skills, like to hire someone to do a film workshop or a jewelry making class, we have to make really sure we're not coercing them. You run into, wage issues. Are you paying them as an independent contractor? Is it part of their normal job duties? Is there overtime? Does it have to, so it's not, we have specifically avoided, Lauren Scheuer is a good example of someone who couldn't do a lot of their workshops until they weren't a library employee anymore. And now they can do, their art workshops and their chicken workshops as an independent contractor. So I like this idea. I like the idea of, everyone contributing, everyone has their own skills, their background knowledge. We use that for readers advisory. If you happen to know a lot about a certain topic, the employee who has a good background in film, I've assigned her to select the DVDs that we buy. So that's a good example of what we can do. But having someone hold a workshop on their outside topics while they're also an employee, that's pretty far outside their job description. We'd have to set it up as some sort of independent contractor and run it past HR.
Okay.
I remember that years ago when we were asking you to do lots of programs to see if we could begin to build that. A lot of the staff were given the responsibility of coming up with them. Like maybe someone else did the board games, or maybe, you know what I'm saying? Different people were doing different kinds of things. So I guess it's hard to know what's okay.
Well, Leanne, Michaela, and I have running programs in our job description. That's why I can be required to do Magic the Gathering, and Leanne can be required to do a kids book group. That's not in the job description for the other employees.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. So that was the operations section. Programming. You had suggested that this is a policy level discussion. So can we table that and put it into the policy discussion when we get there?
Well, not policy manual, just meaning it's a goal, it's a priority. It's not something I'm going to do. If the trustees say, basically it's, do you want more variety of programs, or do you want to take the same program and do it more times, right? Is it, you want quantity or variety? And that's not a decision I can make. That's trustee discussion.
Okay. That could be part of the strategic plan, maybe. I don't know.
Is anybody else meeting here? So this is important stuff, and it takes a lot of consideration. We have a long way to go. Could we table this for next year? Because I don't know about anybody else.
Well, we can. If you, does anybody else have to log off besides Lori? Because if we have a quorum, I'm going to continue, because we can't keep kicking this down the road. That's the problem.
I mean, I'll hang as long as
keep getting kicked down.
we have a
But
long way
if
to
you
go.
can't stay and we don't have a quorum, then we'll have to stop the meeting. So does anybody else have a problem with sticking it out? All right, Lori, so if you want to log off, feel free. We're okay.
I know we've done this in the past, and I just didn't know how other people felt. So go ahead, keep going. I'll do it.
No, I know. I know.
I was just gonna say, I wonder, and I'm new, granted, but I some of these feel like, I think that kind of just said with, some of them do feel more strategic plan versus like a goal of one particular, or, of the director. So, I'm just wondering if there's way we can even like take a quick pass through and see which ones we are strategic plans, so we don't, can kind of move them off the list.
Yeah, we tend to get bogged down, but we can. We can give that a shot.
Yeah, there's a lot of important discussion. I don't mean to disregard it, just thinking about what's best use of time.
Okay, so we talked about programming, and you talked about, Matthew, consolidating some of the programming. So I can work on that and bring it back to the next meeting for finalizing. The library of things, that's
I just want to say, on programming, we do really need some, not tonight, but we do need some direction from the trustees on what their priorities are. Do you just want to see, do we take a chance on an oddball program that maybe only 2 people come to? Do you only want to see programs that we know will fill? Do you want to repeat popular programs? Is your goal to never have a wait list? Is your goal to have something for every age group? So not tonight,
Okay.
but there is a potential. We need some direction from the trustee. Leanne and I can give our opinions. We can tell you what seems to work and doesn't seem to work, what's possible with the staff and what isn't possible with the staff. But some of these, that's why I call them policy level decisions, because they're priorities that need to be set, and then they're trade-offs. Do you want no wait time on baby story time and all we do is baby story times? Or do you
No.
want us to do teen programs that we know only 2 people are going to come to?
Okay. All right, that's fair. So expanding the library of things, I think we all agree on that. We're going to give it a shot. Keep going with the library of things, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And the next 2, I think, Matthew, we did have some people suggested it, but I think E and F you also suggested, didn't you? Yeah, artists, local
Yes.
experts and artists. So
Yes.
those, okay.
Because
So
we
we can
know
keep those in.
more adult programming has clearly been a priority that we haven't been hitting, and I think those are 2 good ways that we could try to make it happen.
Okay, all right. All right, that's it for programming. Last call. Okay, advertising. So the next one, obviously the newsletter already exists. But again, trying to explore, ways to get that up from 50 something to 500, it's going to be a slow slog to get
Mhm.
to what your goal is. And I'm wondering if, a mailing to all the houses in Upton once or twice a year. I don't know what it would cost. We'd have to look at it and whatnot. But if one of your newsletters, a super duper newsletter, whatever, it might be a little different or it might be a little more extensive. It's 2 pages, whatever, to have it mailed to the households with a QR code to, join the newsletter mailing list. I mean, it's going to take us a while to get to, the 500 number that you said your goal is. It's going to be tough because it's going to be 1s and 2s and, it's going to be a slow climb. So that might be a way to accelerate it. And also just asking the friends if they want to contribute something to the newsletter. I did discuss that with Alice, and she thought it might be a way to help their membership. Or, if they have the book sale, advertising the book sale, although you probably already would do that anyway in the newsletter. So there may be some things that they want to put in the newsletter. So that was one of the suggestions. And I think we can just, it's an idea, something to explore to try to get that newsletter subscription up. Expand advertising of the library of things. I don't know who suggested that. I know you asked, what any suggestions on how, what methods we might use besides Facebook and other social media. I don't know. It's that's something that you'd have to investigate and, let us know. Is there anything? You've got the newsletter, now you have Facebook, Instagram, I don't know, TikTok, whatever. Is there anything else that we can use
Is
to advertise what's going on at the library?
with
I'm
the
not sure we have
advertising?
it.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Leah.
I was just going to say, once a month, I send our monthly calendar out to all the schools in town. So the local preschools, the MURSD, and BVT. So they get it that way as well.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good.
Maybe it would be a good idea, maybe to get a list of where you do advertise, like everything, including, sending things to the school so we see what you're currently doing. Maybe take that off the goal list, but just take a look at what you're currently doing. Okay. A sign displayed, no, I know that was Judith, I remember, a sign near the circulation desk, on some things people might not be aware of. Judith, is there anything you want to say about this one?
No. But I think when I was at the library the last time, I saw something that was similar to what this said.
Oh, so you think the library might be already doing it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. The next one is also yours, Judith. For
Okay.
response to try to make a sign,
Yeah. Hmm.
somebody printing something? Okay. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right, and it sounds like it's a minimal effort for you, Matthew, right, to try to do that?
Yeah, the issue there is making sure things don't get buried because we put, you put
Mhm.
12, putting 12 signs out means nobody sees any of them. You put
Right.
two
Right.
signs out and maybe so we can do some tweaks there for sure. Some
Okay.
good ideas.
Okay, all right. All right, on to outreach. We're almost there, guys. So I think this central repository, I know you were concerned obviously about religions and private companies, and I think if we started with what's going on with other town committees or groups, town government stuff. I think people constantly complain, we didn't know about the DPW building. We didn't know about this or that. Or, there are things going on in town that people claim they don't know. It's on the town's
Mhm.
website, but nobody checks
Mhm.
it. So this might be a way to kind of be maybe there's a place in the library, I'm not sure there would be, a place in the library where you could put community or, local government happenings.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah,
suggest, but
and I'm assuming this is intended to be a physical display and not just like a page on the library website.
no. I think, well, Maureen, you actually suggested this. I do have a note here, but I think, no, I think it would be a physical place in the library where you could find out that, I don't know, there's a project, a construction project in town, and there's a meeting about it next Tuesday. Somebody might see it and say, oh, I didn't know that, and would go. I mean, that's
Mhm.
one of the things on the survey was town information was one of the things
Right.
that came out of that survey. And I think that's where this goal came from. Maureen, is that right? Maureen? Maureen?
Yep. Yeah, sorry, I was muted. It was that, and my other thought was and I don't know if this would work, but to have possibly a group of kids present information about town, like interview a superintendent or interview the new town manager. And so a way for people in town to get to know people who work in town, that kind of thing. So it wasn't, I think meetings and all of there, like people don't, the town website, I don't think is well organized as far as presenting like their YouTube videos of past meetings or future meetings. So it would be nice if there was a way to try to make a connection between the two, between the library offering information about how to get information from the town. Does that make sense? I guess not.
It does. I
Um,
think we
we
lost Debbie.
we lost Debbie, but I'm interested in continuing this discussion. Yeah, I think again, this is something that we could probably talk about for hours, setting priority, because the challenge will be, especially if you're talking about a physical display, the challenge will be winnowing. There's so much information out there. It'll be what thing, if you try to present everything, it's going to be just like a book. You know, if I did one flyer on everything that's happening in town, it's going to be overwhelming. So I think the challenge will be prioritizing
Yeah.
what things, and then that's why, you know, maybe you limit it to, you know, then you're making judgment calls on, yeah, I can probably guess that the planning board hearing about the, you know, 80 unit development is going to be of more interest than
Yeah,
the
great.
planning board hearing about, you know, changing the wording of a zoning bylaw. But now someone, me, has to make the one who makes the judgment call of like, this is the meeting I'm going to,
I
so
agree.
why didn't you post about the other? Well, so allocating the space is going to be challenging. That's why I had those questions about, well, now if you're talking about bringing in other community groups, right? If I post about United Parish Food Pantry, do I have to post about everything? How do we select which things get posted about and which things don't? This is all like high level, you know, organization of information stuff. So I think we definitely should do something, but probably.
And I agree with you because I'm throwing the idea out there and I have no idea how you do it.
Yeah, and
Just saying, I think this is good, Matthew. Go figure it out.
the other ideas about, you know, I don't think we have the capability to do interviews with town officials, or would they want? I mean, the senior center does some of that. They do like tea with the town manager and that kind of stuff. But that's obviously then that would be a digital format, right? So now we're talking a YouTube video or something on the website. So
I know, I think the teacher in me kept thinking it would be great to get like the middle school or high school kids who might be interested working with Leanne or somebody making a video, but
yeah, honestly, nobody's got the ability to coordinate that, not without dropping a lot of other stuff we're already doing.
I know.
So I would say maybe we start with, I do think there is a need for some physical space where we could have information about stuff that's happening in town. And if we start with just municipal things and see how it goes, and then maybe we branch out to, okay, maybe we include stuff that the men's club and the Bloomer Girls and 140 Arts are doing. I'm very wary of getting into commercial stuff. We probably don't want to be posting things that are happening at Rushford's, you know, because that's a business. Then Red Rock is going to say, well, why don't you post our stuff, you know? So probably we start with municipal and then maybe expand to nonprofit, see how it goes.
In reading the results of the survey, I felt like people were kind of saying, we want the library to do this for us because they're too damn lazy to do it themselves and go to the town website. But I don't know how you do it. You know, that my thought was, that's when I read your survey results, it felt like a lot of people were saying, we want the library to help us find information about what's going on in town because we're having a hard time getting that information out. And I think, like a lot of people, there have been construction of large building housing areas in this town. And Lori knows about it. And I always am like, well, how the heck did you hear about that? I didn't know that was going on. Or the meeting takes place and you read about it after the fact going, I would have gone. You know, and that's the kind of thing I was thinking of. I'm not sure how you do it. And I'm not saying that you have to accomplish that, but it would be nice if we could all strategize to maybe make that happen.
Yeah, you could teach a whole class on how do you navigate the town's website, or how do you find the Board of Trustees minutes? You got to click through 5 pages to get them.
The easiest thing is to sign up for all the email lists. They come right to your inbox. That's how I find everything out.
The news alerts are pretty good.
I've gone and looked at, like, for example, one of them I was looking at is the rec department, and all you ever see is the motions and what they voted on. You have no idea of what else was discussed. We voted on this, bang. So you've got minutes of 5 motions, and that's it. It's like, that's all that happened in that meeting. So that I find frustrating too.
Minutes and how much better they are than other groups, I think.
Well,
I think, someplace on the website that will show you throughout the month what boards are meeting. And I think Denise has something, or it's somewhere on the website. And then they came up with this newsletter. So there's a monthly newsletter that lets people know.
Yeah.
There's a limit to how much we can do. And I do think the library is a good place to have some of that basic information. but they can't possibly show you the agenda for everything.
Oh,
You just
Oh,
can't.
no, no.
But
I
it's
agree.
available from the town website. People are going to have to take some time to do it. Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
also think when you go to the town hall and you see the posting, what is it? You have to post it 48 hours, 72 hours, open meeting law. How many people actually go and look at what those meetings are? Because it's like on a clipboard off in the.
And she's got a list of there, but
That's
Well,
what
I missed that whole discussion, but Charlotte, can you fill me in on what you were discussing later?
Of course.
Okay. So you discussed the central repository. That's where we left off, right?
mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. All right, 3 more. Advocating for the library. I think, Maureen, you also suggested that one. And I think it was just a general comment, I think. But Maureen, why don't you give us your view of that?
I have to stop and think what. I don't think it was something. It was more just maybe us being more for the library. And the good that it's people to recognize it and what for the. That was all.
Okay. Any question, Matthew? It's really not a matter of things that are not being done now. It's just going forward. Okay.
I'm muted.
The patron feedback. Go ahead.
I just wanted to make sure if that was going to be one
I
of
just
my
wanted to make sure that was going to be one of my
that I was
goals, that I
clear
was
on
exactly what things
you wanted me to do.
you wanted me to do.
It's essentially pretty general, I think. I don't think it is a specific
No.
thing.
No.
I think it's advocating for the library among town officials, town manager and BOS. Maureen,
So I
is
think-
that right?
Yes, and FinCom, because I mean, if we're making for the FinCom, talking about the passport month, I thought,
Oh, my
Um,
God.
if we make 1,300 you know, that was one of my thoughts.
Does that make it a little clearer? I know it's a general goal, Matthew. I realize it's not very specific, but
It's not.
I'm kind of uncomfortable with it because I'm not sure how you would measure success.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know how we would measure the success of it. You know,
I
it
agree.
would be difficult. I think.
I think that's built into his position. Every time he goes across the street,
Right.
he's advocating for the library.
Okay. And the last 2 were contributed by Lauren, and she's not here. So we're not gonna, I'm not gonna speak for her. So we are done. So I guess what I'll do is I'll take the feedback and try to pare this down to a document that we can agree on and complete Matthew's review.
Sounds good to me. Did we
So
lose
until-
Debbie again?
Until Debbie gets back, I just want to say I know these are long discussions, but this is the sort of discussion that is really helpful and important. You know, this is the kind of guidance I need from. There's some things, operational procedures and stuff, you know, staffing, scheduling. I can do that stuff, but when it comes down to prioritizing, you know, like that whole long passport discussion, I know I presented some opposing arguments, but that really comes down to the trustees deciding this is an important thing that we want to spend library resources on, or no, we want to reallocate them somewhere else. Programming, you know, where we go in that direction. What are our priorities? Is it to get, you know, as many families at Storytime as possible? Is it to have a broad range of things for different ages? Is it to experiment with, new things? So I know these discussions are long, and it's hard in this format when there's 9 people and we're all on Zoom. If everyone speaks for 2 minutes, all of a sudden now you have a half-hour discussion on every little topic. But this is the important guidance. This is where you guys are the voice of the community, really deciding what is the library's priority.
That's nice to hear from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I wanted to add and agree with Matthew. Your guidance is important because I feel like he and I have a lot of the same conversations about programming issues sometimes. So it is good to have what the board sees, what their vision is.
and we might have to say, hey, we can't do that, or doing that would, cause us to not be able to do these other 5 things. So we might say that, but I don't. I'm trying to share some realities. I'm trying to share information and not necessarily just say no, we can't do that. Just we can do it, but it might mean X, Y, and Z. And it's at the point we're at, it's all trade-offs. It would be nice to just say, yeah, we want to do everything perfectly all the time, but reality says, even when it comes down to, Leanne and I struggle to find rooms for things. We talked about running 2 more sessions. The music and movement program, we talked today about, hey, could we do that twice a month instead? And it's not always the funding, it's the staffing and literally what room could we put it in.
I'll be honest, after the survey, I kind of thought, boy, people really like what you're doing. And then when we talked, and it seemed like people were saying, you got to do more, you got to do more. And I was like, I'd rather see you focus on what you're doing that people are enjoying and do it well, rather than try to take on too many things and then feel overwhelmed or not be successful. So I think like what I feel like is you're doing well, and I'd like to see that continue. Thanks.
And we focus on,
Thank you.
Leanne and I deliberately, we focus on quality sometimes over quantity. That's a deliberate choice we've made. We had a discussion this morning. Leanne came to me and said, the way the music program worked, we're going to have to actually reduce the attendance limit to maintain the quality of the experience. And that's at odds with, we're also hearing, oh, we've got wait lists and people can't get in and they want to have more people there. But, if we put 50 people in that room, it would make the experience worse for everyone. So we're trying to balance that. And there's libraries that have made the other decision. I mean, there's libraries who've decided the priority for Storytime is to get as many kids in the room as possible. And if that means the whole Storytime is, the children's librarian reading into a microphone and not knowing any of the kids' names and never interacting with them, that's how their Storytime is. And we've made another decision, but it's trade-offs, right? So the people that get in love it. The people that get stuck on the wait list all the time because we only take 16 families, they're frustrated. All right, Debbie's not here. I think Vice Chair or Secretary could entertain a motion to adjourn if we think we've discussed everything we needed to. It has been a long meeting, but I appreciate hearing everyone's comments.
Okay. What time is it? Let's see. At
9:06.
9:06.
Yes.
Can I have a consensus that we adjourn?
Yes.
Move a motion that we
Yeah.
adjourn at 9:06.
Yeah.
Yes, I
I
second.
don't think we need a motion. We've just been doing
Okay.
consensus, which is fine too. But thank you.
All right. Good night, everybody.